This is Brett Stine.
This is Scott Stine, and you're watching Guitar Autopsy.
All right, guys, today on this episode of Guitar Autopsy, we've got Brett and Scott Stine, two incredibly sick guitar players. If you don't know who they are, you should. I consider them, part of the Texas guys. Texas is known for having a lot of great guitar players, and these guys certainly fit in. Scott played in a band with Derek Taylor, another killer Texas guitar player, called Tommy Lamey. He also played in a band called Criminy with Derek, and then in Criminy he played bass on the album, I believe. And then with Tommy Lamey, they both played guitar. And then Scott also has a solo album out on Shrapnel Records called Broke. And his brother Brett played in Haji's Kitchen on the first and third albums. And when Brett actually took a break from that band after the first album, and his brother Scott took his place. Scott's not on any of the Haji's Kitchen albums, but he played with them during the first and second album period. And Brett was doing some jazz stuff. Actually, took some time off from guitar and went and learned how to play. I think, and I could be wrong on this. It's either piano or sax, one of the two.
Maybe both.
We'll let him clarify that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, without further ado, let's get them on here, man. We'll let them tell you the story. Guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Man, appreciate it.
You bet, man. So, I have a question, guys. What was it like growing up in your household?
Oh,
Do you guys have any other brothers and sisters?
Yeah, we have a sister who's younger.
Does she play?
She does not play, no. So I always tried to keep Brett from playing.
Yeah.
Told me my hands were too small. That's what he said. Because he just didn't want to teach me. I think it's,
Yeah. Oh, that's funny, man.
Yeah, so I tried to keep him from doing it. And then I used to
have one of those little, what was the little Explorer guitar you had? You had the little, like,
Man, it was like a little kind of, I mean, it was
like a mini Explorer. And I saw that, and I was like, man, I want to play that thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever that thing is, I want to play that thing.
Right.
And Scott was like, even told me my hands were too small to play that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, my son, when he was little, had one of those little play school guitars where you have the little touch buttons on it.
Yeah.
And I would sit around and make up solos on that thing. I've even brought it out one time live and introduced it to my new play school endorsement.
Yeah.
It's pretty rocking. But seriously, so when do you guys when did y'all both start?
So I started when I was around 16.
Okay.
And then I guess, I don't know. I don't remember when he started exactly.
I started playing guitar when I was 14. Started playing piano when I was 5. Took piano lessons. Nothing serious, but just, I think it was like for a year or two or something, and then I quit. And then Scott was playing. I always saw Scott playing, and he's my much older brother. So, so I idolized him, right? So I wanted to do whatever he was doing.
What is the age difference between the two?
5 years.
Oh, that's not too bad.
5 years.
So Scott, you didn't start till you were 15. I mean 16. That's. I started when I was 15, and I thought I was getting a late start.
Yeah, I felt like I was getting a late start too at 16.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, considering a lot of I'm sure we have some similar guitar heroes. A lot of the guys in the Shrapnel days back then were putting out albums when they were 16, 17
Right.
years old.
Yep.
So I always looked at that and went, man, I got to catch up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was a lot of pressure, but I didn't really think about it as, wasn't discouraging. It just made me work that much harder.
Right. Yeah, Gilbert was like 18 or something, right? When he released the first Racer X record. And what was Jason Becker?
16.
Jason, I think Becker was 17 on the first Cacophony record. I think.
Oh yeah.
Austin was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those were the guys in the teens. I think everybody else was,
Yeah.
a little bit, at least in the 20s or something like that. I think Becker or Friedman was 23 or 24 when the first.
Okay.
Yeah, it was weird that I never, there was nothing on Jason out ever before that. You know what I mean? He wasn't even in the spotlight column or nothing like that,
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And
Never
he
thought
just
about
appeared
that.
out of nowhere. It was just like, holy shit, where'd this guy come from? Because you
Yeah.
can usually, with, the way it was back then, you could kind of see it coming a mile away with Varney's spotlight column and everything like
Right.
that. You could see who was going to be coming up out of there. Did you guys follow that much when you were growing up?
I did. I followed it
Yeah.
a lot. So
Yeah.
I think Brett was in a version of Varney's spotlight column, but I think
Yeah,
at
it
the
was
time
Hometown Heroes at that time.
Okay. Was that in Guitar World?
Yes, I think
Guitar
it
World.
was.
Yeah.
Right.
Hometown Heroes, like 1991, I think I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Send him a demo. Like you said, you were listening to one of my demos. What demo did you have?
I'm not really sure. I have a cassette somewhere, and I gave it to a friend of mine several years back, and he with a bunch of other stuff, and had him put it all on CD. And I think that actually, when I was listening to it the other day, I think a lot of it's actually Derek Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a couple of things that sound like they're off of your album, but like demo versions. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably right. Because
Yeah.
Nothing But Pickin' I have as a demo version, and Psycho from
Yeah.
Texas was a demo version. There were some demo versions.
But there are like some tunes on the demo I sent to Varney that sound similar to Scott's album because
Okay.
I wrote some tunes on Scott's album. One of them, Self-Indulgence,
Okay.
was one of them. So I had some tunes on a demo that sounded very similar to that,
Little brother.
So
right?
who knows, man? I think all of our stuff just got like all lumped together. Nobody can, from back then, I think like people have a hard time telling any of us apart, really.
Right. So am I correct in understanding that you played some stuff on Scott's album?
Yeah, he played a lot of stuff on
Yeah,
there.
a lot.
Okay. What happened with that? Why did it just didn't get noticed or noted or whatever?
He should. Well, he was credited in the credits for like
Oh,
the
was he?
songwriting and in the he played the harmony on Psycho, and so he's credited in the credits of the stuff that he
I
did.
give
but-
Scott a hard time because his album actually opens up with me. Because I played Psycho from Texas, and then the Self-Indulgence was a tune I wrote, so I played the beginning melody
Right.
and the beginning little phrase thing, which is supposed to kind of be a melody, but it's really just kind of a lick or whatever. And then I think Scott does take the first solo, but his album, the first 2.5 minutes or something, I think is me.
Yeah. We know Derek did all the harmonies on Psycho when we demoed it, and then for the actual recording, I had Brett do the other guitar part, so he did the harmony on it. So
He didn't have me do it. I had to beg him to let me do it. I had to beg him to let me do it, and then I stayed up actually because he was saying he didn't think I could do it. He was like,
That's awesome.
he was oh no, man, like it's pretty intricate little riffs, man. There's some stuff, and I said, man, just give me a chance to do it. And I stayed up, so he shows me the riff and everything. I think I kind of knew the licks already, but I stayed up like till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, like just with a metronome practicing Psycho from Texas.
Yeah.
And he shows up because he actually recorded his album at my mom's house.
Okay.
We had like a home studio that Barney had funded, and it's at our house, so that he doesn't have to fly us out there and all that stuff. So he shows up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I have no sleep or anything, and I have to record Psycho from Texas.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that was kind of the thing back then. Barney did that with a lot of guys, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
right.
That was the advanced kind of a home recording gear or whatever.
Yeah, he'd send you an ADAT and a Mackie mixer and
Yeah.
some stuff like that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, Greg Howe recorded like a bunch of stuff that way too. Not his first album, but like Introspection, and I think
Later
pretty much
stuff, right?
everything after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how killer is that stuff, right? The Introspection album and all that.
Yeah, some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
Shrapnel stuff.
Yes. So let's go back to before the Broke album. Scott, how'd you meet Derek?
So I was playing in a local band in Dallas, and we were playing a club downtown Dallas, and Derek and Kyle, who was the bass player, and Tommy Lamy, because we started as Tommy Lamy.
Mm-hmm.
They came down to that club, and he was 18 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They watched us play, and then I met him afterward, and he played Pocket Bell's Canon in D, all sweep picking.
Okay.
Right, and I'd never seen anybody do that before.
Yeah.
So I was going, wow, man, cool. And then we just kind of after that we just ended up forming Tommy Lamy, which then that got all morphed and.
Right.
Yeah, man. Like, so if Varney had released the original Tommy Lamy, because what happened is you had Scott playing guitar, Derek playing guitar, Rob Stankiewicz, who's the Haji drummer, playing drums. You had Kyle Honey playing bass, and they were like Racer X on steroids.
Right.
They were so freaking insane, the shit that they were playing. And
where can I hear all that stuff at?
Well, there's demos of it.
Got it.
You might have some of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ensemble licks that they were doing and all this sort of stuff. But by the time that album came out, it was Criminy. Scott's playing bass on it. Derek's playing guitar and singing because they could never find a singer.
Right.
To sing over that stuff.
That's around the time the whole music scene changed, right?
Yeah. Nobody cared about guitar solos anymore.
God, that sucks so much, man.
Yeah.
So you guys had a full album with Tommy Lamy.
We had just demos, and I have all that demo stuff. Like I could send it to you if you want to check it out.
That'd be great, man. I mean, I heard a couple of the tunes that you guys put out on Guitar on the Edge.
Right.
That's what it was called, right? Guitar on the Edge.
Yeah, Guitar on the Edge.
I had all those. Those are crazy, man. There's some good guitar playing going on back then.
That was fun. Back then we never thought we were good enough, but I go back and I listen to it now, 30 years later or something like that, and I'm like going, what were we thinking? Like, we were never tight enough. We always wanted to be tighter.
Well, Derek Taylor is like, takes the word perfectionist to a whole nother level, especially back then.
Yeah.
Right? So I used to go to the rehearsals when Tommy Lamy was rehearsing, and I'm just sitting there, and they would play one ensemble lick over and over and over, and they would have a metronome. Rob had a metronome behind his drum kit. They would start at like 60 beats per minute and spend like freaking 20 minutes at 60 beats per minute, and then gradually bring it up.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy, sure.
And it was insane, like the level of detail that Derek Taylor went into on some of that stuff, and making sure him and Scott were super tight, and the licks they did together and the way they were picking those licks, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Made me a better player though, for sure.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have I don't know how I got this, but I have the original stuff that Derek did was supposed to be for Shrapnel University.
Yeah.
I've got all that old stuff where it's him on a cassette.
Yeah.
He's got his mom on there on, introducing licks and stuff in between songs.
Yeah.
Changing his voice and stuff. And but I have that in the original tabs. I think the original tabs were handwritten.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I got that from, but there was he did one called Ensemble Ripping.
Yeah.
There was an additional lesson, and it had 2 guitar parts and a bass part.
Yeah.
I never acquired the audio for that. Now Derek went on to put it out on Shops from Hell, but I don't think the Ensemble Ripping part ever came to light.
Right. I might have a copy of that too.
That'd be cool, man.
I might. Yeah, I'll look and see if I do.
Yeah. That was some sick stuff, man. So then the whole scene changed, and that's what Tommy Lamy morphed into, was Criminy.
Yeah, so Tommy Lamy then at that point morphed into Criminy. So Derek sang, I played bass, Rob still played drums.
They went through another, there was the other inclination of that band, if that's the word. Before they evolved into Criminy, Scott was still playing guitar. And they went that's when he got the 7-string. So all the stuff they were doing before that was all 6-string stuff. Yeah. And then they got the 7 strings, and Tommy Lamy was like it was very similar to Haji's Kitchen. I mean, it definitely influenced Haji's Kitchen.
Yeah, I think the Tommy Lamy demos that I heard were on 7-string.
Oh, were they?
The Guitar on the Edge stuff.
Right.
It was just a song called Hey Vato or something.
Yeah, Hey Vato.
Yeah, and there's another one.
Mule Skinner is on one of those, which ended up on my CD.
So now who plays on Mule Skinner on your album?
It's you and Derek, right?
On my album, did Derek play on? Yeah, Derek played on that one also. Yeah, my wife played bass, and then Derek.
Cool.
And Derek and I play guitar. Rob played drums.
Okay.
So his wife was that.
So Kyle, that I can't really remember what happened back then. Like, because things just kind of really got like blurry and contorted, and just kind of things changed a lot, and music style changed a lot. If you listen to Tommy Lamy and then you listen to Criminy, right. But of course at the time, the music scene had changed.
Sure. And
Mike Varney was just trying to, he's trying to get us to just kind of stick to with what's kind of going on, I guess.
Yeah. So that was a major factor in this change.
I think
a big part of it was Varney. I mean, Varney, because you send Varney demos, and then he'll call you back and then be like, he'll give you, that's his way of producing the album or whatever, is like, try this, maybe change the chorus or whatever, or just all these little different things. And so like he would, from what I remember, he was like pretty, him and Derek Taylor, man, just had a lot of kind of headbutting, I think, going on. And so like by the time Criminy album came out, if you listen to that album, which I can't even listen to that album because back then when that was going on, there was so much negativity from it all that I feel all the negativity from that album, and it takes me back to that time, and I just can't even do it. It's just depressing to me. But the whole energy and everything, the anger I think that Derek felt, I'm not trying to bag on Varney, I'm just saying this is just kind of how it's kind of how things went, you know what I mean? And it was like, because when Derek, like I said, they were doing the 6-string stuff, and it was really bluesy oriented stuff, very similar to like maybe like the Greg Howe first album, but like ensemble licks and like trying to do vocals, it's arranged more in a song form to where there could be a singer. They could never find a singer to sing over it because it still was complex things that were going on. It was too busy, is what the singers kept saying.
Yeah, I've always had that problem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Dude, I was listening to that War Cry from Outworld earlier today. I listened to that a lot, actually, when I'm working out.
Oh, there you go.
That's some pounding, slamming stuff, man.
Yeah, man. My brother used to say about my instrumental album, that's what he used to use on his drive to work instead of coffee.
Yeah, it'll get you going.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem with a lot of guitar players, is like you have to learn how to dial it back a whole lot to allow for space for other people, I find that with myself. I actually write more for instrumental stuff than I do for lyrics. And then when somebody's like, oh, we should try to fit something in with vocals here, and I'm like, I don't know how to like stop myself from putting too much sometimes. So I think that's
I don't tend to write very good choruses. Everything's always riffy. You know what I mean?
Right. That's kind of what I mean.
It's hard to let up and just, let it open up. Warcry is actually a pretty good example of a chorus that actually I was able to lay back on and still felt good about.
Yeah, I love that song.
That
was like my first introduction to like what you would write, because I had heard the Sean Lane stuff that you did, but then Warcry and Warcry and then just the Outworld stuff in general. I was always just like, how is this guy singing over this stuff? Like somehow he found a way to get.
Well, the dude on the Outworld album, Kelly, the way I used to describe him is he sings kind of like the way I play guitar. Intense, full throttle all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think it works, and he has that kind of mindset too. So we always wrote really well together. We were in a band called Dominion before Outworld, and that's where I originally met him. And there's on my instrumental album, there's 2 bonus tracks on that album. One's called The Machine, and one's called not to be confused with Haji's Kitchen.
Yeah,
he's got a song called The Machine, right?
Yeah, it's called Machine.
Okay, and then there's a song called Dominion, and those songs were originally vocal tunes that I'd written with Kelly in a band called Dominion before Outworld. And when that band broke up, I just took the stuff that I wrote and turned them into instrumentals. And then me and Kelly kind of reunited. And I said, all right, well, let's throw the vocal versions on there as well. So The Butcher is also The Machine. The Butcher is just the instrumental version of it. And that song got its title simply because that's what we would say every night at rehearsal. Let's see if we can make it through this one without butchering it. You know what I mean? So the names suck. You know, it's those silly rehearsal room names. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plenty of those.
Yeah. My singer in Day of Reckoning, he gets frustrated with us, and we ended up leaving some of the names that we had. You know, rehearsal names. Like there's there's a song called "Guitars and Laser Beams," the voice of Morgan Freeman. There's a couple of others. They have nothing to do with the songs. You know what I mean? But every time we'd be at rehearsal, he'd go, okay. He'd write the lyrics and have the vocals down. He'd go, all right, let's play this one. Everybody look at him like, what? He'd go, guitars and laser beams. Finally, he just said, fuck it. You know what I mean? So so we just left him. It was pretty funny. Gives, people are like, what the hell? That title has nothing to do with the song. You know,
I'm horrible at naming songs.
Yeah, that's not my strong suit either.
I usually just put like song 1, song 2, song 3, and then I forget which song is which, and then I have to keep listening to them over and over again. So I just usually send them off to my brother and have him come up with something.
Right.
Distance myself from it.
There you go. Yeah, Zach's brother plays drums and bass, right?
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
guitar.
Well, it's good to meet you, by the way, because we haven't met you
Yeah.
yet, so it's good to meet you.
I think we're friends on Facebook and stuff. But
Yeah.
not actually talked or anything. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. I was excited to do this today.
I mean, I saw a couple videos of yours, man. Super shredding. I thought good feel and tone and everything. So
Thank you.
Yeah. What was cool was the one you did where you would pull the string down to change the pitch of the low string.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. I
Now
mean,
my song Disintegrated.
okay, that was
Yeah.
cool because, like, it's not like playing a fretless instrument. You're listening to
Mhm.
where you're bending that to get that pitch to get into the right spot. I mean,
Yep,
that was-
100%.
that was super
Yeah.
cool.
So I did that on accident, and it just because I was trying to just write some stuff, and then I got one of Rusty's signature models, and I was kind of messing around, and then I hit the string, and I was gonna bend it, but I missed it, and I hit the low E, and I realized or the low B, and then it dunked the bar, and I was like, I wonder if anybody's ever made a song like that, and then I just kind of kept bending it until I couldn't bend it anymore, and see how low I could go. So. And then you just those little moments of inspiration that was the whole song just came after that. It wasn't anything pre-thought of, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, oddly enough, the song we were talking about from Outworld, War Cry, that song was totally a goof. We were at rehearsal one night jamming, and I started playing this riff, and I yelled at Kelly. I said, dude, sing something like Halford, because Halford had just put out that album Resurrection.
I
You
love
guys ever
that.
heard that? It starts off and he's doing this really high note wailing. And that's where that song came from. It was just a goof. It was like turned out to be a pretty good
Slamming-
goof.
slamming
It's I don't know about you guys, but I seem to do some of my best writing when I'm in the rehearsal room with a drummer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something to replace that live vibe and feeding off that energy in the moment. It
Right.
seems like things come together a lot quicker if they are going to come together. You know what I mean? A lot faster than per se I'm just sitting here trying to put some riffs together.
Right.
So I like that energy for sure.
Yeah.
I don't really write that way myself. I don't know if it's a different generation or something, but I've always played guitar by myself, so I don't write well with other people around because I feel like I have to like perform something and I have to be like amazing right away, and then I get like self-conscious about it, so I just I don't feel like I write the way I would by myself.
Yeah, it's just for me. It's not something I'm worried about being perfected or self-conscious about. It's just like it's in the moment. We're just jamming and feeling out the riffs together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if I write some stuff at home, the way I wrote with Outworld was I would come up with all the riffs for the song, but not really the arrangement. And I would just bring them in and throw up all the ideas at the drummer, and we would just start jamming on them. And then Kelly would come in, and I kind of would always let Kelly do the final arrangement on what was the verse, chorus, or whatever, because he's got to sing over it, right? So,
Right.
so I'm cool. Whichever order you want to put them in, they all sound good to me either way. So whatever.
I always like jamming with drummers. I can remember back in the day, Rob would just start playing a groove, and I'd start improvising riffs. And like if we're waiting for Eddie and everybody to get there to rehearse or whatever, and you come up with ideas, and
Yeah, that's cool,
Yeah.
man. So, and for those of you who don't know, Brett's talking about his band, Haji's Kitchen. Are you still playing with those guys, or was that?
We did an album in 2012. Well, it came out in 2012, recorded in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We were supposed to do another one after that. That was supposed to be an EP. And then I wrote a bunch of material that's just sitting around. And Eddie had some tunes he was working on. And then I think he ended up doing something with Dan, who sang on 2012. He was the singer for Tesseract.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Dan wrote a bunch of vocals, and it ended up kind of being like a Dan solo project.
Okay.
But it was the tune. Some of the tunes were tunes that I think we were supposed to use for the upcoming Haji album. It's
Right.
never. I don't think it's ever going to happen at this point, but that's what I think happened. I
Yeah,
can't.
man. I was always a huge Haji's Kitchen fan, man. I love that band,
appreciate
man.
it.
I mean, I loved all you guys' stuff, man. You know,
Appreciate it.
it was definitely an influence on my playing and riff writing and stuff like that for sure. You
Appreciate
know what I
that.
mean? Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
So tell me the story. If I just want to validate this, the origin of the name Haji's Kitchen.
Okay.
So because somebody told me, I don't remember if it was Eddie or where I heard it from, but what?
Well,
so-
Eddie's a big. He likes Indian food,
right.
and at the time, we had a drummer named Clint Barlow who actually owns Trees, down Trees and some other club down there,
Bomb Factory.
Bomb Factory or whatever. So that's what he does now. But he was the original drummer for Haji's Kitchen, and he hates Indian food. So Eddie brought Indian food to rehearsal one day.
Yeah.
Then Clint walks in and goes, "It smells like goddamn Haji's Kitchen in here." And then we all go, "Hey, man, that sounds like a good name for a band."
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that was the story that I heard. I like I said, I
Yeah.
can't remember if I heard that from Eddie or who told me, but that's
Yeah, that's
pretty
it.
rad. Great name. It's funny you guys are sitting in like a bar or somewhere like
Yeah.
on the album cover of the first album.
That was a Mexican restaurant that's not around anymore.
Yeah.
Can't even remember the name of it.
So where did Eddie come from, and how did Haji's Kitchen start?
So Eddie, like we all went to a Nuno Betancourt clinic. So it was like Scott and Derek and me and Rob Stankiewicz, the drummer
hmm
for
I've never
Haji.
pronounced that name right, by the way.
Yeah, Stankiewicz.
Stankiewicz.
Yeah, nobody ever
I
pronounces
was
it.
close, Stankovics, but
Yeah. We were at a clinic and we're waiting in line to get in or whatever, and Eddie walks by, and I think he recognized Scott because Scott and Eddie were both playing around town here, and they had similar styles, and people would come up to Eddie all the time and go, "Man, think he was Scott." So they'd say, "Oh, hey, you're Scott Stine, right?" And he'd be like, "No, I'm Eddie Head."
yeah.
You know, and so he walks by us and he looks at Scott and he goes, "You're Scott Stine, aren't you?" And Scott's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, well, I'm Eddie Head, man. I get confused for you all the time by
Yeah.
people." Anyway, that's how we met him. I think he ended up hanging out with us like the rest of that day, and then I think I was at a rehearsal for Tommy Lamy. They were doing a rehearsal, and I was just hanging out. And Eddie and Clint, the original drummer for Haji, I think they were getting ready to rehearse. So they came in, and then it's like the room next door or whatever, and we started talking. And next thing you know, I was in a band with them, and that was the original Haji's Kitchen. And it was actually Scott's wife. So I was going to say earlier, Scott's wife was actually the original bass player for Haji's Kitchen.
Well, that's cool.
So
Wow.
yeah, interesting. You know,
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, man. I consider that, I think, Brett, you mentioned earlier that I don't know, those guys got confused with each other, or the sound,
yeah,
right? I mean, I consider that whole sound to be kind of something like that. That's that North Texas sound to me. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's a thing that I think you guys all created together. It's very unique,
yeah. I mean, I would say that Derek Taylor is the driving force, though,
Right.
because he influenced all of us.
Yeah.
Sure, he's definitely. I mean, I think he's underrated still to this day, like really underrated.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I know how Derek can play, and I don't think he ever released an album that really shows that.
Right.
No,
That is
yeah.
easy, you know what I mean?
Not just that, but he taught himself how to sing too.
Yeah.
And he did an album. He had another band after the Shrapnel days called Stara Gazora.
I have that.
You ever heard that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then Double Out Spool or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So Stara Gazora, though, like when I heard that album, it really blew me away because the vocals sounded so much like Jeff Buckley, who's kind of one of my favorite singers and is just an incredible singer. So the fact that Derek went from not being able to sing at all,
Yeah.
right, being frustrated that Tommy Lamey could never find a singer, they went through singers in different, versions of that band until when the Criminy album came out, he had to do it himself, even when he wasn't really ready. So I think like that Stara Gazora album is like, it's a good representation of how far he came with vocals from the Criminy album up to that album. You know what I mean? Vocal wise and songwriting wise, right?
Yeah, and then he went on to do the ENIAC Requiem album,
Right.
right?
That was before.
Oh, that was before.
Oh, that
Stone?
was
Yeah, that's
before.
before.
Yeah.
Okay, I got the dates mixed up on that then.
Yeah, all that stuff is before Stara Gazora.
And Eddie Ellis, who originally sang in Tommy Lamey, Mike Varney sent Eddie Ellis from California to Texas, ended up in Haji's kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, they sent to be in Tommy Lamey.
Yeah.
So all these people that were in Tommy Lamey. So we ended up with Rob Stankiewicz being the drummer.
Okay.
By the time our album came out, the first Haji album, it was Rob and Eddie Ellis, who was originally sent down here to play with Tommy Lamey.
So that's what happened to Tommy Lamey is it was them.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Tommy Lamey.
It turned into Haji's kitchen.
Yeah, we stole everybody. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Never thought about it that way.
So what happened to Eddie Ellis?
We're
We
not
don't
sure.
know, man. Like he just vanished.
Yeah.
That's what I heard too, man. It's just like if he vanished off the face of the earth, man.
Nobody knows where he is. I mean, he was like a very different kind of guy. He had a great voice, and he was a cool dude. But like he had some issues or whatever. Like I mean, everybody does. But like,
It's not an easy gig, man.
no.
When I was a kid, I just thought all you had to do was be good.
Yeah.
It's so different now. I mean, it's completely different. It's like you were talking about, Scott, looking back at some of the stuff that y'all did that you didn't think was good enough. I've done the same thing, reflecting back on some of my old stuff. It's like, man, I don't know why I didn't try to, I don't know why I didn't try to send some of that stuff to Shrapnel.
Yeah.
I thought at the time, well, it's not instrumental. There's not enough. It needed more, or something like that. But you never know what could have happened, because there was definitely good guitar playing on it, but it wasn't
Definitely could have been on Shrapnel, man.
It wasn't what was going on in the respect of, Vinnie Moore and McAlpine and Joey Tafoya at the time and stuff like that. There wasn't really, nobody was doing vocal stuff on Shrapnel, really. I don't think. I think, who did the first vocal stuff?
Was it
Criminy?
Cacophony?
Yeah, it was
Cacophony.
And then How To, right? Didn't How
That's
Greg Howe stuff.
They were like a Van Halen-ish type of
Yeah,
thing.
that stuff's really killer.
Yeah, dude, I've got both of those albums. That stuff's killer. Yeah, I always, I had that whole Shrapnel catalog. I pretty much lived, eat, sleep, and breathe all that stuff. I'm the bastard son of Shrapnel Records.
Yeah. We did too, man. I mean, I remember driving around Scott in his car, driving me to school in the morning or whatever, and like blaring Racer X and all this stuff. You know what I mean? And like, so that's how I got exposed.
And Holdsworth. I was playing.
He did. He was playing Metal Fatigue, and I was like, what is this weird shit, man? Like, get this off and put on some Metallica or so. I thought it was so weird at the time.
Yeah, I had a student a few years ago that every week when he would come in, he would ask me if I thought, do you think this guitar player knows the modes? And most of the time my answer was no. And I told him, I said, go listen to Holdsworth, So he comes back and he goes, man, that guy can't play in key. Like, no, man, he's very much in. Dude, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Where did you guys, I don't even know where to go with that statement, but where did you guys first get, obviously, Brett, I know where you got exposed to Holdsworth from, but Scott, what about you? Where did you first hear of Holdsworth?
I was listening to I was really into like metal early on. So like Slayer and Exodus, Metallica, like bands like that. Then somewhere along the way, I got into like Al Di Meola, Steve Morris, which then kind of morphed into that probably Holdsworth thing, but I didn't just go right to Holdsworth. I kind of, gravitated towards it.
I think I had heard of Holdsworth, and then what really hooked me was, when Guitar Player magazine had the sound page.
I remember that
thing. One of the sound pages was "Devil Take the Hindmost," and I was just like, man, I was hooked from there, man. It was killer playing. I'd never heard anything like it.
Yeah,
best. Still, it's mind blowing today.
So was it Sean Lane or Holdsworth, or who was it that like really pushed you guys to like dive into theory more and not just be like the normal rock shredders? You know what I mean?
For me, that was actually I guess in '95 after the Haji Kitchen album came out. So I was listening to Holdsworth, and I'm listening to Tribal Tech, and I'm listening to Robin Ford, and I'm hearing all this really good note choice, right? Like Scott Henderson, every note that dude plays is the perfect note. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the perfect note at the perfect time. So I was like, I wanted to know how he was doing that, because like most of the stuff we did up until, I guess like Haji, we knew very basic theory at that point. Me anyway. I didn't know like a lot of theory, right? I knew modes and stuff like that, but I didn't understand harmony, like how the chords all work together necessarily. Everything was by ear. And when I was listening to all that stuff, that kind of led me to their influences, right? So I was like, oh, Scott Henderson played with Chick Corea, and then Chick Corea led me to Miles Davis, and then Miles Davis led me to Coltrane, led me to Charlie Parker, and then I started getting super into saxophone and piano, like jazz harmony, and so it's really kind of, I guess, I would say Scott Henderson and Holdsworth led me down that path to wanting to really understand jazz, right, and play jazz, not just understand it. So in '95, we recorded the album, did a bunch of gigs or whatever around, and like opened for Yngwie and all that sort of stuff. And then around 96, 97 or whatever, I was like, I guess it was kind of 95 when I was like, I basically found a piano player around town here who went to North Texas, and started taking lessons from him. As a guitar player though, but I didn't want to take theory lessons from a guitar player. I wanted to learn from a piano player. So even though I played piano, at that time I didn't really play that much piano, really, just off and on, but I'm losing my train of thought now. So what was I say? Okay, so 95, I did the Haji thing, and then I started getting into theory or jazz and all that stuff, right? So the Chick Corea, all that stuff. Find this jazz piano player. He fills in a lot of holes for me as far as theory and understanding how chord function works and all that sort of stuff. And I just started getting more and more and more into jazz. I ended up quitting Haji's Kitchen because I wanted to be a jazz guy.
All right.
So, anyway, like I had my goal changed, right? My original goal was to be on Shrapnel, right? So I accomplished that goal, and then it just started to change. And then I wanted to move to New York and actually try to be a, legit jazz guitar player up in New York. So then what happened was I started wanting to play saxophone because I was learning all these saxophone solos on guitar, Brecker and Coltrane and Bird and all this stuff. And I was going, man, I really want to know what it's like to play this stuff on saxophone so I know where their head is at.
Right.
Like, why are they playing these? Because it's a different instrument, right? And a lot of times, actually, lines that you learn from a saxophone player don't necessarily translate to guitar all that well. Some of them do, some of them don't, just depends. But so I got a saxophone and started learning how to play saxophone, and That was in '95.
That's pretty crazy, man. Just quit
Yeah.
playing guitar? Did you?
Yeah,
quit
I
playing?
mean,
Yeah,
we did gigs too where he played saxophone.
Really?
Yeah, so we would go do
Yeah.
these restaurant gigs where we were just playing standards out of the real book,
Yeah.
and I would play. At the time, I modified my 7-string to try to be like a Charlie Hunter thing, where
Sure.
I sent a separate output for the 2 low strings,
Hmm.
and I took the pole pieces out on one of the pickups so that it would only just play those 2 strings, and we would go do restaurant gigs. He would play sax, and I would, do my best to.
Sometimes I'd play
Comp the
guitar,
chords
bring my guitar, and I'd
Yeah.
switch back and forth or
That
whatever.
was, it was fun. That was fun to do. It was good, good learning.
Yeah, it was a good experience,
Yeah.
Sure.
And I eventually got so obsessed with the saxophone that I quit guitar. And I didn't touch a guitar for about 5 years. I was a sax player.
Right.
So I just did all my practicing and playing gigs with Scott and whatever gigs I could play. I think I played like in a horn section at, some church things and stuff like that.
That's crazy, Scott. What did you think? It's like, you're quitting playing guitar? What?
Yeah.
Well, I got him into it. He ended up like getting a saxophone after I got my saxophone.
I
So
took
it's
some
like the
sax
younger
lessons.
brother influencing the older brother.
Yeah. I've always, he's done sax, he's done piano, he's done drums. Guitar always takes a back seat.
Mhm.
But I've always said that if he would push him, if he would do more with the guitar, I think,
Mhm.
more could happen. It's
Sure.
not like he's not doing stuff with the guitar, but that takes the focus away. Now, there's a good and there's a bad, right? Because you're learning another instrument, you're learning the musicality of things you can apply to guitar. So, there's that balance. It's just a balance thing.
That's such an older brother thing to say.
Yeah.
Like in the best of ways. Like
Yeah.
you're like, if he would apply himself,
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but I see what you're saying. It's like, a little bit differently, but it's similar to the fact when I was growing up, my parents always wanted me to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
So when guitar didn't work out, you know what I mean? And I always just said no. I said I'm not going to have a prepare to fail. You know what I mean? If I could spend all that time on what I'm going to do when I fail, just apply that to not failing. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Just become the best guitar player I can be and not worry about it. Let the cards fall where they fall.
I think that happens a lot, though. I think a lot of people. I was writing up this like ebook on business and stuff like that, and I know a lot of people that will start a business and then they say like 90% of businesses fail, but I think it's because they say it's because people always have a backup plan, so then they'll allow their business or whatever it is they're doing to fail and then move on to the thing that was their backup plan, but then ultimately they're not very happy,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think with music it's the same way. It's like, oh, I got this backup gig at Walmart that pays me pretty good, and then they stop playing music for like 10 years and then they're depressed, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that once too. I had a sports nutrition store that I
Oh,
opened.
that's cool.
I actually sold up because I was like, there was at one point in the early 2000s where all I did all day was wake up, practice saxophone, practice piano, practice drums, and then teach, right? And I got super burned out. And I had my head in like a theory book, like another 3 or 4 hours a day, you know what I mean? Of jazz harmony and trying to understand all that stuff. And just got to a point one day I just literally woke up and I was just like, I'm selling everything. And I basically literally sold everything but one guitar.
Wow.
And I was at that point I was into working out and supplements and nutrition. That's another one of my passions is nutrition. So I spent a lot of time reading science on all that stuff. And I was like, I just need to open up a supplement store. So I opened up a supplement store, and that was another 5 years of not touching the guitar,
Yeah.
where I just didn't play it.
Crazy.
And it's just like I have
Do you think
very
that's some sort of,
impulsive.
is that an ADD thing?
I do have AD. Well, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. So some people don't even think that's a thing, but I can tell you it's a thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have it. Never been.
Yeah. So, and I'm very like one of the things with ADHD is impulsiveness. You're very impulsive. So like I could wake up tomorrow and just be like, "Fuck it, I'm moving to Canada. See ya," and I'm gone.
He had some of the coolest gear, man. All right, he had like cool guitars, cool amps.
Oh, I had some badass,
some really
shit.
nice stuff,
Yeah.
and boom.
Dude, you just
Sold it
woke up
all.
and you just sold it. You just said, that's it.
Sold it. Yeah.
That's
Like,
I get that.
So how many years had passed? Now, are you back playing guitar full time?
Yeah, I play pretty much full time. Yeah.
Okay, so that's your instrument now.
Well, well, this past summer I've done nothing but play drums. So the last summer
The heck?
I got like thing is I got super into Holdsworth, right? I got obsessed with it because he sucks you in,
Yeah.
and I wanted to know. I wanted to know what was going on, right? Like how he thinks about improvisation and all this stuff. Because I know, I've studied jazz harmony from somebody who has a doctorate from North Texas. So I know how they teach it. I didn't have to go there. I studied with somebody who's a great player, and he went there and has a degree, and he owns his own music school. So, so then I was like, I got so into Holdsworth from around 2014 or something. I think I started trying to figure out, because I don't know, man, it's kind of weird because, I went through the phase of being a jazz snob, or I was actually a jazz snob, right? Like if it wasn't Coltrane or Miles Davis or Bird, if it didn't have like a acoustic upright bass and acoustic piano, like I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah,
I didn't even listen.
Is that during the time you were taking lessons from the North Texas guy?
Yeah. And
I also player in my band graduated from North Texas. I know what that's like.
Yeah, and I also took some lessons with Clint Strong. You know who Clint Strong is?
I know the name.
From around here, he's a prodigy, man. So from the time he was, you can watch a video of him at the, was it the Texas jazz competition or state jazz competition or whatever, and he's like 16 years old, and he plays this solo on rhythm changes that just like, I mean, it's just like from another planet, man. I mean,
is this guy a guitar player?
Yeah.
He actually played with Merle Haggard for a long time.
Yeah, he did some country gigs and stuff like that, some big profile gigs.
So how old is this? Yeah, how old is this guy?
He's like probably
60s.
He's got to be like late 50s, 60s, something like that. He played with Red Garland too, who played with Miles Davis, because Red Garland is from Dallas. Anyway, what was I talking about?
So he's a jazz. So Brett was a jazz snob.
Yeah, I was a jazz snob. I was a jazz snob. But this is what's interesting, though, from that is like, because I go away from all the shred and all the Holdsworth and tribal tech. I wouldn't even listen to that.
Yeah.
I just wanted, all I was listening to was like Pat Martino, Pat Metheny, John Coltrane, Schofield, like that type of stuff. I'm transcribing all that stuff and everything. Then around 2004, I started listening to Holdsworth again. And I was like, man, this is coming from a very Coltrane place.
Yeah.
Because I could hear it, and now all of a sudden I could hear things that I didn't hear previously when I listened to Holdsworth.
So you come full circle, right?
Right. Yeah. But, and at the time I thought he was playing a lot of jazz language and stuff. He really isn't necessarily. I think he's captured the essence of Coltrane through his own system.
Yeah.
Right. And so his system, I don't know if you guys know, if you don't know a lot about him or if you do or not, but basically he talks about, if you read all these interviews and in his instructional video, he talks about taking every permutation of the chromatic scale, starting with 5-note scales all the way up to 9-note scales. Right. So a lot of the stuff that he does, and so I did that eventually. I was like, all right, so just, this was about, I guess right before the pandemic and all that started, I had started logging all of these scales. Now I've got from 5-note all the way up to 11-note scales, every permutation that there is, right? So it's like, it ends up being over 2,000 scales, basically.
Is this what Holdsworth was doing?
Yeah, this is what he did. So he took every permutation of the. So the way he would do it was like he numbered the chromatic scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then he wanted to learn a 5-note scale, so he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, right? And you keep doing that until you get every permutation of the chromatics or of the 5-note scales. Then he went to 6-note scales, did the same thing, 7-note scales, 8 and 9-note scales.
Oh, that's pretty
Right?
crazy. Yeah,
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, so what ends up happening though is when you do that, you end up with a lot of really unorthodox scales, right? And a lot of those scales have the chromaticism already built in. So like I don't know how much you guys know about like jazz theory and stuff, but a lot of jazz theory, people are dealing with approach notes and enclosures, right? So like you approach a note from a half step above or a half step below, whatever the chord is. So if the chord is C major 7, you might play B flat leading into B, right? But you're just thinking of that as an approach note. It's not part of the scale.
Yeah.
With Holdsworth, all of these chromatic notes are actually part of the scales that he's dealing with, right? You're not dealing with diatonic harmony anymore. You're dealing with like crazy shit.
Yeah.
And like, so what I figured out after I logged all of these, and this is part of the book, like I was trying to work on a book to talk about all of this stuff. The more I got into it in the book and everything, it's kind of becoming less about Holdsworth, and it's kind of a new approach to thinking about music for me. You know what I mean? It's like opened up this whole other world of stuff I didn't even know existed, in this way of thinking, the way he thinks. The way he thinks about scales and everything is from the lowest note to the highest note on the guitar.
Right.
So if you have a C major scale, it doesn't matter what chord is going on. He just sees all of that and he just jiggles the notes around. Okay, so now if you do that with a bunch of these exotic scales that he's playing, you get a bunch of that, all that stuff that I thought was like, oh my God, these fingerings and like, how's he coming up with this shit? Well, a lot of that stuff, if you play those scales 3 and 4 note per string, naturally just occurs.
Right.
It's really interesting, so like,
yeah, I was just going to
say, it unfolded all that stuff.
Is this the book you're working on?
Yeah, this is the book I'm working on. I've been working on it for a long ass time.
Yeah. So Scott, when do you think you're going to finish it?
Well, that's just it. I was just sitting here thinking, I'm always telling him, hey, you need to finish that book.
Well, the reason is because you get into it, man, and it's a lot of, it's very intense stuff for one thing, and I get burned out on it. I'll be gung ho about it for like 2 or 3 months, and then I'm like, dude, I need a 2 or 3 month break. You know what I mean?
I think I'll go start a cooking channel or something.
Yeah, cooking channel.
Put that idea in his head.
Yeah.
I'll have one tomorrow.
That's crazy, dude.
But anyway, so I think if people want to get into Holdsworth and like understand what he's doing, the first thing they need to probably do, not that I'm an expert, I'm not saying I'm an expert on Holdsworth.
Sure.
I'm telling you the process I went through. I read a bunch of articles and stuff and tried to figure out the way he thinks about things. And then I just did what he said he did. And I went through the process myself. I think most people don't do that because logging 2,048 scales is a pain in the ass.
I have a book by somebody. I'm see if I can find it real quick.
Wayne Krantz.
Nope, it's not Wayne Krantz, but I know who that guy is.
He did a book called The Improviser's OS operating system, where he actually logs all those scales and everything. He logs them all by numbers. I actually wrote them all out.
So guitar players can figure it out, right?
C is the root. Well, not just for that. I wanted to see it in notation because I spent so much time reading on saxophone and everything that I just really I want to see the space between the notes, the intervallic structures between the notes. You know what I mean? Like written on a staff. That just is a personal thing that helps me,
Right. I'm looking for that book. Let's see. You can continue, man.
Oh yeah, but anyway, I was gonna say like there's if you have his REH video, he talks about 10 scales on there, and one of them is Messiaen's third mode. He calls it the symmetrical scale, but Messiaen has 7 modes, and I think a lot of people think that because Alan says in the video, these are my 10 most useful scales, I think a lot of people think that those are the only scales he uses.
Right.
but he doesn't.
Yeah.
So, and then if you buy the book, it's called Just for the Curious. It has an extra 5 scales in it, 2 of which are so important to his style, I believe, for people understanding his style. And I don't think too many people really investigate those.
Yeah.
And one of them is just a major scale. So you could just take the C major scale, add E flat and A flat to that scale. Now you've got a 9-note scale, right? And inside, so it's not diatonic anymore, right? It's not your typical diatonic harmony. Now all of a sudden, you've got like, voicings like, E major 7 sharp 5 to C major 7 sharp 5 to A flat major 7 sharp 11 to F major 7 sharp 11. And these are the kinds of progressions that you'll see him kind of play. And then typically, if you're a jazz guy, right, you would look at those chords and you would assign a different scale for each one of those chords.
Right.
But Alan is getting all of those from this one scale. Therefore, he can just think about this one scale over it.
Right.
And it creates this kind of
That's pretty cool.
creates this kind of different sound, not your typical sound. That's what the thing is, man, is like he sounds like he's from outer space, right? So if he was just playing the major scale, and the 4 basic parent scales that most people deal with, right, are melodic minor, harmonic major, and the major scale, right? So those are the parent scales, and then those 7 scales those 4 scales have 7 modes, right? And then you're dealing with all of that stuff. But the parent scale is really the only thing Holdsworth thinks about,
Instead of thinking about different modes. So this book, have you guys ever heard of Rich Cochran?
No, I haven't. No.
It does sound familiar.
He's got a book called The Spectral Analysis of Scales, and it looks like he uses ones and zeros.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
What's that book called?
The Spectral Analysis of Scales.
Yeah, I don't
Write
know
that
if I've
down and
seen
check it
that or
out.
not. I have to look
And
at
then
it.
he's got 2 other books. He's got one called Beyond Slanimsky, and then he's got one called Arpeggio and Scale Resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I assume he's got to be a jazz guy.
Yeah, it's probably some similar kind of stuff.
I think it is. Let me see.
But
If
the
You
whole
download
thing,
the book for free.
oh, you can?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on archives.org.
Okay, cool.
So what Brett's really saying is that Holdsworth uses the minor pentatonic scale.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. It all cycles back around.
That's
All
right.
that studying, it's the minor.
blues up, classical down.
Yeah.
Um,
That's Derek Taylor right there. Isn't it?
yes,
That's a Derek Taylor thing right there.
You know that, huh?
That's funny that you know that.
Yeah, I've got some bootleg. Man, I've got so many VHS tapes that
yeah.
I've still got 1 or 2 VCRs because of them. I need to get it all translated over into a
Yeah.
DVD format. But I've got. I think Derek has his 3rd Chops from Hell lesson or whatever was that night, an evening with Derek Taylor or something like that.
Yeah, that was off of VHS.
Right, that was my bootleg video that I had, and I sent it to Chris at Chops from Hell, and then Chris contacted Derek and said, "Hey, there's some good shit on here. We should make that into a product." Derek's like, "All right, cool." So it was really Derek didn't have anything to do with it other than whoever. I think Brian Getty filmed it.
Oh, Brian.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think Brian's on the video because
He is on the video.
yeah, because he pans to Brian at one point. He goes, "Sound goes up, hand goes down," or something like that.
Yeah. Brian and I did some stuff together, like wrote some tunes and some demos and stuff like that.
What happened to Brian? What's
he's married and has a kid, and I can't remember exactly where he lives. I haven't talked to him in.
Well, he's in a band. I mean, I can't think of the name of the band right now, but they
He did have a band for. Is he still in that
I
band?
thought he was still in that band. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, what's the band that you're doing now?
So I'm doing a band called Valkyrie.
Okay.
And it was actually a band that was my high school band back in. So we started in 85-ish and did a demo, like a 3-song demo, did some gigs. We used to open for Watchtower and
Cool.
like the original Watchtower with McMaster on vocals and Billy White on guitar.
That's cool, man.
Did some stuff like that. That band lasted till probably about 86.
Okay.
And then broke up. And then 2018-ish, the singer got a hold of me. So here we are, 30-something years later, right?
Yeah.
Hey, want to get the band back together? Right? So we did. I mean, it's like it just started out. We put out an EP in 2019, and we were actually re-recorded some of those songs that we recorded on the demo in 1985.
So where can we get that?
So that's on. It's on all the streaming sites. So if you look up Valkyrie Choosers of the Slain,
Okay.
that's the EP. A lot of that there's a couple of new songs on there, but most of it is the demo material that's been re-recorded.
Okay.
And we're in the process, right now, we're in the process of working on a new record. We were trying to get it out for 2021, but it's not going to happen. So it'll probably be next year. Yeah.
What are you playing through for a rig?
So the EP, I actually used Amplitude 5.
Okay.
Or no, it was Amplitude 4 because it was 2019. But for the album, I actually got the Gojira plugin
Oh, cool.
from Neural DSP.
Yeah.
And that has blown me away.
Yeah.
The sound of that plugin.
I don't have the
Well, that's-
Gojira one yet, but I have some of the other Neurals.
That's a good one. I mean, it's got a lot of good stuff on. It's just easy. I mean, I've got a Boogie Mark V that I've done. I mic up and I've done stuff on miking it up and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
is that what you use, like for rehearsals?
Yeah, so I use that live and I use it for rehearsals.
Okay.
And but I don't know. I mean, by the time it's said and done, I may end up miking and using some of that, but I definitely am also using some of that Gojira plugin.
What about what are you using to record with? I mean, like software.
Logic.
Oh, Logic. Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Logic.
Yeah, and then you just use the Neural plugin and
Use the Neural
Rock and roll.
plugin. I mean, it's easy, right? It's easy, cut and dry. It's a good sounding plugin.
yeah,
I mean, I grew up playing amps.
yeah, me too, man.
Yeah. And so, and I love the feel of an amp on stage, but that's just,
Yeah,
that's
see,
how I grew up.
Zach is a youngin compared to all of us.
Yeah, that's why I haven't said a whole lot, because you guys are talking about stuff from like 92 and 93, 94, 95. And I'm like, dude, I was like 3 in 1995. So I don't have an opinion about anything. I'm just enjoying it.
So why don't we share? I know we've shared this story, I think, once before, but why don't you share the story about when you bought your amp? When you bought a real amp one time.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think so. The one
Where
at
you
Guitar
got it
Center.
and you were like, well, where's all the effects?
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, I first purchased, I had just regular little gig amps, that were like line 6 type things when I started. And they already came with everything built in, all the, loopers and effects and delays and all the cool stuff. And then I was in a band for a little while and I was like, okay, well, a gig amp's not going to work anymore. I got to get like a real head amp or something, and then so I had no idea what to look for. So I go into Guitar Center, which was probably my first mistake. And I just asked the guy, I was like, okay, so I'm looking for something that's going to be super loud. So he hooks me up with this really shitty, like Fender Mustang 5 head, which just doesn't have a lot of power. It's meant for modeling and then just the cab that came with it. And I was playing and I was like, yeah, this sounds pretty good, I thought, but it came with all the sound effects you could dial and everything. And then I started playing it with the band that I joined, and they had 5150s and 6505 pluses, and they were so loud, it was insane. And I had mine cranked and they were at like 5, So they were like, you need to get a better amp. So I went and bought a 6505 plus, and you spend like $1,400 on this thing, and then I got 2 cabs, and it sounded great in the store. You freaking crank it up, and then I get there and I'm looking at it and I'm like, where's solo stuff at? Like, where's all the delays and reverbs and all the stuff that I want? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. I just spent $1,400 on this damn amp and I haven't got shit. And they were like, well, that's not how the amps work. You're like, that's why you got to buy a bunch of pedals. And I was like, oh my God, I got to spend more money. Like, I was just so upset that I spent all that money. But I mean, the amp sounded better. And then so I just got on Facebook and I was like, I need pedals because apparently I'm dumb. And then I just had a bunch of people just donate pedals that they weren't using anymore. And I didn't know how to hook them up. I had no idea that you actually had to power all of them individually. I was just an idiot at the time and I still am with that kind of stuff. You know,
man.
I like plug and play. So now I've got back here, I've got my Bogner tube amp, but it has a Line 6 preamp. So I've got all of my effects built into that, but it's still the power from the tube amp. And then right now, what I use to record is my Headrush pedal board. I don't know if you've ever seen those before.
Yeah.
So I've got a Headrush pedal board, and it's just everything's there. I don't have to think about it anymore, and it plugs direct in. So that's my story, I guess. I never got into that gear stuff, you know.
Right.
Gear stuff.
I have like 60 guitars, but I don't understand anything about gear.
Yeah.
Big
So
geek either.
yeah. So check it out. We had Lynch on the show a couple weeks ago, and I know George. I've known him from here and there through the years and whatnot. And George texts me one day and he says, "Hey man, I need an ADA MP1. Do you have one?" And I was like, "No man, I don't." And I called up Zach and I said, "Zach, man, Lynch just called me and wanted to know if I had an MP1." And do you want to tell the story, what you did from there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't know what he was like. I had heard about it before, and then so I just Googled it, and I saw like, you know, it's like the black rack with the little blue buttons and everything, and I was like, I've seen that in my life before somewhere. Like, I feel like I know what that is. So I called up my dad, who's a guitar player too, and I told him, I said, "Do you have like this like MPK thing?" And then he's like, "What the fuck is an MPK?" And he was not understanding what I meant. What is it? I still don't even know what it's called. What is it called?
It's an ADA MP1.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. And I said, you know, the thing with all the blue buttons on it. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I got one of those." And I got all the gear that goes with it too in his rack mount. So, yeah, he still had it after all those years. And I was surprised that I remembered that's what it was.
Pretty awesome. You still got it.
Yeah, we ended up sending it to.
Yeah. So that's how we got George on the show. We kind of bribed him. Because Zach asked his dad, he said, "Well, you know, George Lynch wants this thing," and his dad's a big George Lynch fan. He said, "Well, just give it to him." I said, "All right, well, here's what we'll do." I said, I called up Lynch or I texted Lynch and I said, "Hey man, I got one of these ADA MP1s. I got the MIDI controller, everything, the box and all that." He goes, "Well, what do you want for it?" I said, "Why don't you come on an episode of Guitar Autopsy?" He goes, "You drive a hard bargain." So Zach boxed it up and shipped it to him, and thanks to his dad,
it was the most expensive interview we've done so far.
Man. Yeah.
I even paid for the shipping myself.
Yes, yeah.
And then one.
And then he stiffed us on the first 2 interviews or something like that.
No, he didn't stiff us.
No,
he did. He had to cancel because he booked a gig on the same day that we
I think
had
it was
the show.
Paul Gilbert's Shrapnel, not university, but
Yeah, whatever it
Gilbert's
was.
guitar camp he just did. It had something to do with Shrapnel or something.
And then the next week he had a gig in like South Dakota or something. So, yeah, but it all ended up turning out just fine. But yeah, it was just funny. Like I called my dad and I was like, "Hey, you have one of those things, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got it downstairs. I haven't used it in a while, but I got everything." And I was like, "I think George Lynch wants this." And he goes, "Give it to him." And I was like, "Well, what do you want for it?" He goes, "Nothing. I don't want anything. Just give it to him." And then so like he like made me come over the next day, and he was being so like finicky because it was dusty, you know, sitting in the garage, and it was still in the rack, so it had never moved from the rack, but just he was so finicky about cleaning it and like making sure it was all shiny and shit. He's like, "I may be a shitty guitar player, but I'm a clean guitar player. I'll tell you that. George is gonna know that I'm a clean guy." And I was like, "Okay, great."
Keep my gear in pristine shape.
Yeah, and he does. I don't. Obviously, I just dropped
either.
a fucking guitar on the ground. My gear doesn't stay very. I actually, you know, I just bought this Headrush pedal, and you know, I mean, they're not cheap either. And then just the other day here at my studio, the electricity went out in the middle of the day because the local people like decided to shut down the electricity on the whole block. And I was like, okay. And I had it just like this, and there's no lights in here now. And I just like was walking around in the dark trying to get out to the hallway, and I stepped on it and I freaking bent the side that like holds it all together. And I like freaking bent the side of it. I was like, well, there's $1,500. It looks like shit now.
It still works.
Well, yeah, nothing damaged as far as the electrical components, but like every time I look down at it, I just see like nice and straight on this side, and then the other side is just fucking bent, and I'm just like, I hate everything about this right
I
now.
already ripped one of the latches off one of my new Ormsby cases.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're cases, so I was throwing them in the back seat.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, stuff gets messed up, right? You're gigging and you're taking it in and out. It happens.
I mean, that's what the case is for, so that stuff doesn't get messed up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
My wife gives me so much shit because she's had things for like 20 years. She has the same jacket in the last 20 years. She's had the same computer for like 15 years and it's like still running perfectly fine. And then she bought this like brand new computer and within like a month I dropped it and broke off a piece of it.
Oh, man.
And she's like, every time you touch something, you break it. And I was like, well, I guess this is my computer now, right? So then she went and bought a Mac because she knows I hate Macs. And she's like, I know you won't ever touch this thing. And I was like, yeah, you're right.
That's a
And
good way to keep you from touching.
I know, just buy Mac products and I'll never break them because I don't like them. But yeah, that's just. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you're gigging, you're just moving stuff around. I mean, it's a thing. I try to respect my things, but I'm just clumsy, I think. But
It happens, man.
So, Scott, I know that you're kind of on a time limit today, right? You got
I do a tribute band, Judas Priest tribute band, and we have a gig tomorrow night. So I have a rehearsal tonight. It's like 7:30. So
I got you.
yeah,
I mean, we got time.
So
sweet.
that's cool, man. Where are you guys playing?
Tribute bands are sweet.
Yeah, it's fun. I started doing it for fun. We're playing a Gas Monkey Bar and Grill.
Okay.
So I play the part of Glenn Tipton.
All right.
So I wear the red leather pants and
All right.
It does
the
whole thing.
SG with the mirror pick guard, and it's fun, man. I mean,
Who
it's
did you
like
find to do the vocals.
we have a guy named Brian Dixon,
Okay.
and he does Halford really, really well.
That name sounds familiar for some reason.
Yeah, he's in a new band called Earls of Black, which they're out, like releasing some stuff now.
Mhm.
I can't really whatever else he's been in. I can't. But Judas Rising is the name of the band. They've been around even before I was. They've been around for a long time. It was Brian that kind of got that band going.
John Petrucci's wife is in a Judas Priest tribute band.
Oh, is she?
All girls, they're Judas Priestess.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah,
There's,
that's his wife.
there's
That's
one
fun.
here in
Fun gig.
there's one here in Houston. It's called Judith Priest.
Judas.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in a System of a Down tribute band. I don't know if you guys
Okay.
like System of a Down at all, but that's like
Chop suey.
chop suey. But we do really, really well, actually. I mean, before the pandemic, anyway. We were doing really well. We got offered like $10,000 for one gig out in Wisconsin, and then we had to cancel it. And I was like,
Oh man.
God.
It's like a corporate gig or something.
Yeah, I guess it was like some kind of small festival, and obviously they're not going to get System of a Down to play for $10,000, so they may as well have us play it. But it's really fun, and I like tribute bands. I like to, because it's kind of like no pressure to write your own stuff or feel like people are going to judge you. They already probably like the songs if they're going to be there. They've already liked Judas Priest, or if they're going to come to a System of a Down show, they already know the songs, and so you kind of get to like live it a little bit. Everybody's singing along to the stuff, and you're not sitting there like oh, I hope they like my song. Like, they already like the songs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the amount of people that come out to those kind of tribute gigs, it's kind of crazy. The amount of people that come to see that, and it's
Crazy.
it's fun.
Yeah, they
and
do well. There's a like Def Legend. Like, one of my students is in this, or he was ex-student, was in this band called Def Legend. They've been touring the world, man.
Yeah.
We had
Mexico and all over the place.
We have a place here. It's called the Ralston Arena, and Megadeth played there a couple times, which was kind of cool. So it's a big place, like a big band like Megadeth, and I think Lamb of God was booked, but they didn't show or something. But there was a Pink Floyd tribute band that sold out the whole Ralston Arena.
Wow.
And I'm like,
That's crazy.
what is this? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, that'd be pretty slick. And then, like, I don't know. But if you think about like Vegas, that's like how they make so much money is through tribute acts,
right.
People that just want to see Elvis and they want to see that stuff or relive something or whatever,
I mean,
So-
that's where Steel Panther got their start.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Metal School.
It's so funny when they came out. I saw the album. This was back when you could still, there were still record stores. You know what I mean? There was no records, but CDs when those were a thing still. And I saw the Steel Panther CD, and it had the tag on it, so the best band you've never heard, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then listening to it, it's really pretty authentic. I'm sure you guys have heard them.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that they got to say everything that we only wish we could have said back then. You know what I mean, because it got pretty close with a lot of those bands, the lyric content, but you could never do it and pull it off because
it had to be somewhat suggestive instead of right on the nose.
But with these guys starting as a Vegas act, the whole thing was a joke anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So they could just go all out.
Well, Satchel, I think he was roommates with Paul Gilbert for a long time.
Well, he was a student of Paul Gilbert's.
Yeah. In fact, when Derek Taylor won that Paul Gilbert contest and played with Halford and all of them in L.A., he was playing bass.
Was it for the electric bats or something like that? What was the
Cherish, right?
I can't remember what they called themselves. It was that Ibanez contest.
Right, but it was Paul's cover band, right?
It was his cover band. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How long ago was that?
92-ish.
Yeah, it was super early.
91-ish, something like that.
Yeah, there was a video. There's a lick that Derek played at that thing with Paul Gilbert, right? It's supposed to, and then I think on that Evening with Derek Taylor video, talks about this lick that blew Paul Gilbert away or something like that. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
That's kind of funny. Like that's how I got my career off and running was with the Paul Gilbert competition. With Ibanez. Was it called the Flying Fingers back then, or was it something else?
No, it was called. There was a song called Weed Whacker, and I can't remember exactly what the
was that Derek's song?
Was that Derek's song that was Weed Whacker, or was that the Paul Gilbert? Yeah, maybe it was Derek's. Maybe it wasn't the Paul Gilbert thing called Weed Whacker. I can't remember.
That sounds like a Derek Taylor song title.
Yeah, it does.
It does sound like a Derek song title.
But I mean, there was a Paul Gilbert tune, and we all three soloed on it and sent it in or whatever. And
that's cool, man.
It was fun.
Derek ended up winning. Shocking, huh?
Right. Yeah. I have that video. That's one of my other VHs. I got a video of you and Derek playing Scott at NAMM. I think it's at NAMM or maybe the Dallas Guitar Show.
It was the Dallas Guitar Show.
Yeah, and you guys are both playing each other's guitar or something like
that.
Yeah, I filmed that.
Yeah, that was Brett.
Okay. Derek's like cursing me out. I'm filming it, and he's like, he didn't want me to film it. He never wants you to film anything because he thinks it's going to suck.
Oh man, that's funny.
Just like Holdsworth, thinks everything that he does sucks.
He's apologizing for his performance halfway through.
Yeah.
It sucks so bad. Yeah, that's funny.
So he would get pissed and cuss me out right before I filmed it.
Fucking videotape me, man. That's funny, man. So, God, there's so much stuff that I can remember from back then. I think one of the first times I ever spoke to you, you ended up sending me a couple of licks in tab through the regular mail.
Yeah, probably because I remember you sending me some cassettes and stuff like that, which was cool. And then I think I remember tabbing some stuff out, or I had some stuff tabbed out.
I think it was Nothing But Pickin'.
Okay.
And there was 2 licks on it. Had like it had a picture that you drew by hand or something like that on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's pretty funny, man. I still got that. I recently put it in the Guitar Pro.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I'd like to get a copy of it.
Yeah,
sure, man. Yeah, for sure. I'll send it over to you, man. I got it.
Awesome.
I have the original too somewhere. Man, I'm a pack rat. I keep all my guitar stuff. I'm such a nerd with all that stuff, man.
Yeah. I got all that stuff too. I got a freaking shitload of tabs because Derek used to come up from Corsicana and stay at our house for the weekend so that they could rehearse.
Right.
And Scott was always off doing something else, so it's basically me sitting there with Derek Taylor all weekend. And he would sit on the couch and come up with all these crazy licks, and I'd just sit there and tab it out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you tabbed out stuff while Derek was playing it?
Yeah, he'd just be like, "Oh man, 13th fret,
right,
8th string," and so I've got a stack of stuff. If I could get that stuff into Guitar Pro, and people would probably be interested in it.
Dude, send it over. I'll put it into Guitar Pro.
Yeah, I need to get it to somebody that has the time to do it.
I've actually put a lot of that stuff in Guitar Pro. I think I took Derek had that lesson. What is it? Insane legato licks or something like that. It was 18 licks or something. That was one of the first things that I got from him. I had the Shrapnel University stuff, but I didn't have any recording. I didn't have a cassette of it at the time, so I didn't know what any of the stuff sounded like. And then I got in touch with Derek somehow, and he sent me the Intense Legato lesson or whatever that was, and it had the cassette with it, and I could actually hear how he was playing it. And I was like, oh shit, okay, now I get it. And I went back and learned all the old stuff too, you know. But I tabbed a bunch of that out. You know, I don't know if you guys were ever into Sean Lane.
Yeah.
Dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Sean was a big influence of mine, and
Yeah, mine too.
yeah, I had a friend that was in Japan send me all of his columns that he did for Young Guitar. I think it was called Beneath the Underdog. Right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he had a column in Young Guitar, and it was all like most of the stuff was his little photo and everything on it was like his handwriting that was like on a piece of paper, and they just used that and stuck it in the magazine.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But I started putting all that stuff in Tab Guitar Pro. I don't know if you guys use that or not. It's a great
Yeah.
Yeah, Guitar Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good for your students and stuff like that, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bit of practice.
See, there was a song on Scott's album. Was it Sunday Drive? Is that the one?
The last tune on the record, I think. Is
Well, no, that's next.
Oh, okay.
But there's a tune called Sunday Drive, and I did a solo at the end of it, and I was trying to do my Sean Lane impression
Okay.
in that solo. So I was doing all the diminished, string skipping stuff, but I was doing it with a wah pedal,
Okay.
kind of, make it a little different or whatever. But
Yeah, it's right before Nothing But Pickin'.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Sunday Drive.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
Now, who wrote next?
That was
yeah,
Brett's
that's me.
tune. Yeah.
So I wrote that tune, and then Scott and I, that didn't really come out the way I wanted to because we had to use a drum machine, and we had Andy coming over to play a guest solo
Is that
on
the song he played on?
Yeah, it's one of them.
They Drive? Okay.
One of the ones. He played a solo at the end, but I had the drums programmed, and I ended up deleting a bunch of it, right? Because I didn't know we were even going to use that tune on Scott's album. What happened was Scott didn't have enough tunes, right? Because Varney wanted a certain time limit on
Sure.
the albums, like 45 minutes or something at least. And I was like, well, I got these 3 tunes or whatever that I was probably going to use on my solo album, and you just use these or whatever for now, and I'll write more or whatever. But
Yeah.
I had these drums programmed, and they were pretty decent. I mean, for the crappy drum machine that it was. And then we get Andy to come over, and I go to get the drum machine thing, and I had deleted a bunch of the drums. So Andy's on his way over, and I'm sitting there programming drums as fast as I freaking can to try to get, before he gets there. So it didn't come out the way I really wanted it to. But
So let me guess, that was a Boss DR5.
it wasn't the DR5.
No.
It was, we used that a lot. I have 2 of them up here actually, and we tried to get them to work the other day, and they weren't working.
I've got 2 left as well.
Yeah.
Still got 2 of them, yeah.
Man,
Matter of
so
fact,
many-
it was, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say Eddie Head was the dude that finally helped me figure out how to use the damn thing. I had it for like a month, and the owner's manual was like completely useless to me.
Yeah.
And I got on the phone with Eddie, and he's like, "Okay, here, write this down." He gave me like 5 steps, and I was like, "That's it?" He's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
and I could do it. I mean, I got it from there, and I didn't even have a clue on how to begin to write drums. It's like, all right, here's what you do, man. You go and put a kick and crash on beat 1, put your snare on 2 and 4,
Yeah.
rides here or there, and then you can put one on the upbeat, and you put one on the downbeat, and you do 8th notes. It's like, okay, cool. So
Yeah. Well, I was using like a way worse drum machine. I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember
but
what it was
it
either.
didn't have any dynamics was part of the problem, so I couldn't make any ghost notes or anything like that. And then a bunch of that particular tune has a lot of odd time signatures in it, and so it was a pain in the ass. And then I did use the DR5 on that tune though for all the little piano stuff that you hear. I actually had my guitar plugged into the DR5, and I was trying to use it as a synth because you can do that with the DR5, but it just didn't track very well. So that stuff didn't come out really the way that I wanted.
yeah,
Pretty much that just didn't come out the way I
I
wanted.
don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking, that whole album had drum triggers
Yeah,
on it, right? It was Rob that played the drums, except for the song that he programmed.
Well, my 3 songs have drum machine.
Drum machine. But I mean, the triggers back then, it was the 90s, so technology. wasn't really. I mean, it was fine. It worked out fine for what it was at the time.
Sure. I don't know if you guys know this, but Rob was supposed to play drums on my instrumental album.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he came down to Houston, and everybody in my house had strep throat. So the day he came down, I was so sick I couldn't even go to the studio. So he went with my keyboard player, and I guess he thought the stuff was going to be easier than it was, and he didn't really practice it.
Yeah.
He got in and went to the studio one day, and nothing was usable. I was so bummed because I was a huge fan, and I was
He's a great drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great drummer.
I hear he's not even playing anymore. He's
Not
doing
much.
photography or something.
Do what?
I heard he's doing like video and photography.
Yeah, he does.
Photography
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it seems like he's doing pretty well with it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's cool.
He hasn't played in but thing was, man, is like back when Tommy Lamey first got together, Rob was amazing, like insane.
Yeah.
For as young as he was, like the feel that he had and ghost notes and just the groove that he had and the chops that he had, insane. One of my favorite drummers ever. And the fact that I got to play with him in Haji's kitchen, was like a dream to me because he literally was one of my favorite drummers. And the problem was, a lot of people don't really know, is he got in a really bad car wreck right after the Haji album.
I can't remember.
I think it might have been right after the Haji album. Yeah, after the first one. And it messed up his back so bad. And his drumming kind of it was never really the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's too bad, man.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I mean,
Yeah, for real, man. What was I going to say? Bumblefoot. I don't know if you guys know this, but it was a pretty bad car accident. When was that, Zach? About a year ago?
Yeah, I remember watching an interview about it, and I kind of forgot to ask him about it when we were interviewing him, but he said that he got in a car accident and he got like a really bad head injury. And like he like couldn't remember certain things, and he couldn't remember how to like move his hands right, and it was just like he had to like basically like relearn how to do everything, how to relearn how to play guitar. And luckily that came back pretty quickly, but he said that even now he like kind of his mind lapses, like you just don't have the thought anymore, and then he just has to like keep going forward, and I think it's gotten better, but it's just weird how something so like not necessarily small, because accidents aren't always small when it's like a car, but something that only lasts a few seconds can like completely destroy somebody's ability to do something, and that's very scary.
Right.
But especially somebody like the drummer, it's like you can't drum if your back is screwed up.
Yeah.
I remember my brother and I went to Cannibal Corpse show, and the drummer in Cannibal Corpse has a really bad back as well, and just playing that intense music all the time, I'm sure just wears it even worse. But he had to stop. They had to stop the show, and he had to go back, and he had a one of those like incline things, and they had to stop, and he had to get on the incline for like a little while and stretch.
Did he have a teeter hang up?
Yeah. and then he just hung upside down for a little while, stretched his back, and then he was able to finish the show. But
That's crazy.
it's like, I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. Speaking of injuries, guys, have either one of y'all ever had a hand injury?
Yeah, I have problems with I actually have problems with my ring finger.
Okay.
I've had it for a while now. It's almost like I used to go to physical therapy, and I get cortisone shots in my forearm because there's a nerve that runs like the radial nerve or something. So radial tunnel instead of carpal tunnel.
Okay.
And it affects my dexterity. So if you think back to when you were younger and you're practicing all your scales and you're trying to work your dexterity, and it's always these two fingers that always seem to be the issue. That's how I was telling Brett earlier that, I'm playing some stuff and I'm kind of going, man, it's just like back when I didn't have a ton of dexterity.
I can help you.
And your social media skills, Zach. You got the social media skills.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I need to get some advices from you on that.
Yeah, well, before I started teaching guitar, I sold cars for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got promoted up to being like the social media manager and the online person, and then they paid for like, the dealerships will pay out the ass for anything, training and stuff. So I took all these courses on social media and video editing, and so I learned I edit all of these videos, and then I got Rusty hooked up with his camera and all that stuff and the lighting. And I've actually got 2 cameras here and 2 different angles. Like if I switch angles, see, it'll go to this one, and then I can play guitar this way, and then if I want to talk, I can just switch back angles. So really cool stuff. So if you guys ever need help with that, just hit me up, man. Like I'll help you out. No problem.
So Zach, pointed me in the right direction. I got the camera I'm using is a Lumix G7, I think.
Yep.
And then I
Panasonic
got a big ring light over here, and I got an umbrella light over here, and then got the colored lights down here that you can, it comes with a little remote. You can.
Yeah, it all looks good, man.
It does look really good.
But the key thing is for me, which I didn't know, is just where to put these lights. So Zach's like, well, you got to put this one over here for your face. You got to put this one over here, the umbrella light for side angle, and
and this is all stuff that I didn't know until I was just getting so mad that I hated having to how like when you go to record something, like you finally feel inspired, and then you sit down and you're like, where the hell is my freaking guitar cable? And then somebody moved it or put something away, and then you're just like little things like you can't find your pick, and then you just start getting pissed, and then you just don't want to do it anymore.
Or if you're like me, you open up the DAW and forgot how to record.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
So basically,
where's the record button?
Basically, I got to that point where every time I'd feel inspired to like shoot a video or something, it was like a 45-minute process of setting up lights and then the camera, and then for some reason the lights look like crap today or the camera doesn't look right. So I had to like finally streamline the process so where I can just turn these on, and then I go. And that's essentially what I did. And then with Rusty, it's the same way because, he struggles with even having any time at all to be able to do something. So when you have a minute of inspiration to shoot a video and you don't have your phone or you want to make it a decent production, it's like I did 70 videos in 2 weeks for this online course that I made. And I just did it exactly like this. I sat and I recorded onto my computer through OBS, and then basically I just did like 20-minute long videos. I did 70 of them, and I just sat here for like a week and a half or 2 weeks. So but it streamlined it. I didn't have to like every day figure out something new.
Right. So how is it teaching Jeff Loomis?
It's really cool, actually.
Yeah.
So basically, I did that course, and then he messaged me on Instagram, and he was just like, hey, I saw you're doing this course, and I think that could be something I could understand, and he apparently has just struggled with theory his whole life. And I think I think that he got made fun of when he was younger about not knowing theory. And so he just like had an axe to grind to not learn it. And then he just kind of, he literally, it amazes me, not to like, again, not to make fun of him or anything, but like it amazes me that he doesn't know a bunch of stuff because of how good he is,
I never would have known that he didn't know theory. I would have had no idea.
I mean, maybe not to the level of like Holdsworth and then the like, Sean Lane guys, but I mean, at least like, something. And he was just like, man, I know the patterns and I know how to play it really well, but I don't know what they mean. I don't know what they are. And then,
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was very, very cool because he's one of my favorite
Been on
players.
the show?
Yeah. He's going to be on.
He's going to be on. He's working on a solo album, he said, again, and he's working on some stuff. And he wanted, I guess, to just wait to have that ready, and then he can talk about it and promote it. So, but it's really cool. Very cool. Yeah, you guys are a lot of fun to hang out with, and
man, thanks for having us on.
Appreciate it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got a lot of history. I still don't feel like I've talked to you guys about everything I'd like to have talked about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, man, I mean,
you guys on the show again sometime.
Yeah,
we'll do it again or whatever. And
yeah,
once you get into
for me,
Holdsworth,
man, I need to come up to Dallas and hang out with you guys. Come to some.
Yeah, you need to come hang out, man. Rusty, come on, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's been long enough, right? Yeah.
A while, yeah.
But hey, man, when you invited us out to your show like a few years back or whatever, I really wanted to come to that, man, but I was dealing with like tinnitus. Do you guys have tinnitus?
I do, yeah.
So I had it so freaking bad that it was like somebody holding an air horn, like a high-pitched air horn next to your head 24 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
I don't have it always, but it's like coming home from rehearsals or after a show for sure. I don't want to lay. I don't want to lay in bed in silence because then I just hear.
Yeah, So there was no way I could come to a loud show at that point. That's the reason.
Sure, man.
I can't even get him
appreciate
to
it,
come
man.
out and see like the Judas Priest band or anything, man. It's like
Do what?
I got a gig tomorrow night and he won't come to it.
Oh man.
I don't go to any gigs. No, I don't really. I wanted to come to that. I was going to come.
Yeah.
I don't go to
That
any
would've been
gigs
cool,
either.
man.
I don't know what that is. Like,
Yeah.
everybody asks me to go, and I just never do.
Yeah, I'm old, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not old. I just tired or something.
It's my excuse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want that excuse.
Just give it time, brother. Give it time.
I know.
All right, guys. Well, I know you guys got to run. So once again, thanks for coming on the show, man. It was great hanging out. And
Appreciate it,
We
man.
appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, guys.
We didn't get to do any playing this time. Maybe next time we could do
Absolutely. Sounds
Yeah.
like a plan. All right, guys. Be good.
All
All
right, later.
Have a good one.
right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Well, very cool, man. There's a lot of music history right there, and a lot of stuff that I don't think people really know about Texas. There were some other guitar players that got mentioned in there, like Brian Geddes and Eddie Head from Haji's Kitchen. Of course, Derek Taylor. And I agree with those guys. Derek is kind of the kingpin of that whole sound. We were all, Scott and Brett and Eddie were all there right when it was happening. Me being from Houston, I didn't know it was even going on, really. I mean, I'd seen Derek Taylor in Spotlight Com from Mike Varney's singing guitar player, but hadn't really heard too much of him. But
Well, I think that it'll really help, guys like me that are a little bit younger, and because I had never heard of them until you had introduced me, kind of just like Cyric, I didn't know about him until because that was just before my existence in that realm. But now maybe with this, everybody should just go check them out and follow
Sure.
them on Instagram. They're up there posting stuff, like insane stuff on Instagram.
for sure, man.
insane.
And what to check out is check out Scott Stine's album Broke.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look that up.
Check out the 2 Haji's Kitchen albums. Actually, there's 3 Haji's Kitchen albums, but Brett's only on the first one and the third one. And then Scott played bass on Criminy with Derek Taylor.
Right.
And Scott also played guitar on John West's album Permanent Mark, I believe.
Okay.
And he's had some other various demos out there. The band that he was talking about, Tommy Lamy, was him and Derek Taylor both on guitar. And there's some demos that they put on this compilation CD, or a series of compilation CDs. Mike Varney's brother, Mark Varney, had this compilation series called Guitar on the Edge, and every
Mike
month,
and
or
Mark.
every 6 months or something like that, Mark would put out a new compilation CD, and it had all these unknown great guitar players on there. And there was I think Tommy Lamy was on 2 of them with Scott and Derek playing guitar, so you can hear some of this stuff. And they were playing 7-string then, and this was a long time ago, so we're talking like way ahead of the game. And
See, that was a question that I wanted to ask, and I was trying to get there, and then the power went out. But I was going to ask him, like, what got them into 7 strings? Like, what was it, I guess, that kind of converted them over,
yeah,
And I didn't get to ask that.
Sure, it had to do with the timing that the 7-string had just come out, and seven,
Late
that's
90s.
more. Yeah. The 7-string guitar was introduced to the market, I think, when Cvi's album Passion and Warfare was released, because that's where he debuted the 7-string guitar.
I mean, there had been some back in the early 90s that he had tried, I think, to push out, but nobody was really caring at that time about guitar.
Ooh, what's that?
I think Steve Vai had a 7-string prototype back in like 91 or 92, and nobody really cared about it. It just wasn't the time.
Well, no, what do you mean when you say nobody cared about it? What do you mean?
Like nobody picked up yeah, from a consumer standpoint,
Okay,
nobody
right.
really picked up on the 7-string at that point, because
Right.
that was like, Nirvana and all that stuff at that time, I think.
Well,
So-
actually, that was a little bit before Nirvana. It was a little bit before Nirvana, because that's Passion or Sex and Religion. That was still during the shred heyday.
Did he have some on Sex and Religion, a 7-string?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Maybe nobody knew what he was doing.
It was still really new, and there were guitar players that had one. I wanted one then, but I couldn't afford it.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't have no money to buy one of those back then, but I always wanted one. So when I got my first 7-string, the interesting thing is Ibanez had quit making the 7-string guitar, the Universe, because of just that, I believe.
It probably just wasn't selling.
And so at that time, I had the money to do it, and I wanted one. I got my first 7-string in 95. I put it on layaway and got it out early 96. And what happened was Ibanez had 70 bridges left, is the story I heard. So they released 70 of the black and green ones.
Okay.
And the store that I was teaching at, the Texas Music Emporium, got 3 of them that were released, and I bought one of them. I put it on layaway and got it out in early 96. And that was around the time that I quit playing in local bands, and Sebastian was born, and I went back to the woodshed and reinvented my guitar playing and became the guitar player that people know of me now, prior to the Revolution era Rusty playing,
It says here that although the 7-string acoustic guitars have been dated as far back as the early 19th century.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, 7-string guitars have been around a long time.
But the first mass-produced electric version arrived in 1990. So, yeah, we're about right.
Right. So, and that would be the Universe, Steve Vai's Universe. Yeah. That would be the one that came out. Now, I mean, George Van Epps and I think Johnny Smith were playing 7-string guitars, I think in the 40s or 50s. I'm not sure on the, don't quote me on those dates, but sure. They were using the 7-string guitar with this 7-string tuned down to low A for walking bass lines.
Right.
So it's not like Steve Vai invented the 7-string guitar.
No, but just this version.
He brought it back into mainstream.
Made it more rock, I guess.
Made it mainstream, for sure. And the funny thing was, it wasn't the shred guitar players or, guitar players that played with a lot of technique or used all 7 of those strings. It wasn't those guys that made it popular.
Right.
It was, like Korn.
Right. Fear Factory.
That kind of stuff. And guys that didn't solo at all.
Yeah.
Ironically enough.
And then a little bit of John Petrucci kind of did it on.
He did it on the second Dream Theater album.
Yeah, a little bit, but not the whole album.
Yeah. Right, a little bit. Let's see. So, what I was going to say, interestingly enough, the Criminy album that Derek Taylor put out, that Scott Stine played bass on, and the Haji's Kitchen album, which I think was released. Let me see if I can find the dates on that. Let me see. Criminy was released. Let's see. 1994, and Haji's Kitchen. Let's see. Hang on. Close that. Haji's Kitchen's first CD. That would have been. Let's see. Haji's Kitchen's first CD would have been out in. Where's that at? Sorry. That was out in 95, so 94, 95. And here's the interesting thing, that the Criminy album was released in 94, and this was before Korn's first album came out, mind you.
Okay.
It was 7-string guitar tuned down a whole step. So Derek Taylor was playing the 7-string in 94, tuned down a whole step, before Korn, Limp Bizkit, and all that crap. Or not crap, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean.
Nothing's wrong with those bands.
That jazz,
that stuff. But anyway, so there's a lot of history there, man. There's a lot of stuff that went down. They got overlooked, unfortunately, because of whatever. You know what I mean? I would have loved to have heard that Tommy Lamey stuff, where that full album of that stuff with Scott and Derek and the Kyle Honey on bass doing all that ensemble ripping stuff. It would have been pretty insane. You can there's. Some of the stuff I loaded up yesterday for you to listen to, one of those songs is a Tommy Lamey song from that era. That's from the Guitar on the Edge CD.
I was just looking. There's this 1990 Ibanez Universe for sale.
Really?
For about $4,000.
Wow, it's crazy. Yeah, that would be an original one. I'd like to have one of the swirl ones.
That it is a swirl. It's like a yellow swirl. It's sick.
Yeah,
but it just. Can you imagine? I mean, obviously, I think that the 7-string guitar would have come out regardless of if Steve Vai did it. Somebody else would have come along with the idea to just go lower and to have higher strings and whatnot.
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of like the 8-string guitar, dude. I was playing 8-string guitar in 2001 before Meshuggah was using it. But of course, I was going with the higher string, not lower.
Yeah, 7, not high A, right?
Right. So that was 2001. And then when I heard Meshuggah do it with the low F sharp, I restrung mine so that it had a low F sharp to see if I liked it. And of course I did. And then in 2005, I had a 9-string guitar built.
Oh, wow.
So I was playing 9-string in 2005, which was high A to low F sharp.
Oh, sick.
Right?
How'd that feel?
Just pretty crazy.
I don't even think my hands could have done it.
Yeah. Well, if you play it, you don't try to wrap your thumb around the top of the neck, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. But the
Jeez.
technology wasn't all there with it. We didn't have the fan right on it, and I didn't like the pickups, and so I didn't keep.
Was the neck thin enough, or was it?
The
too
neck
thick?
the neck was thin enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was made by a company called Conklin, and Conklin they made my first 8-string and first 9-string.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that kind of wood looking one.
They yeah, they know
Sick.
what they're doing, man. They build some badass guitars for sure.
It's just crazy the like evolution of it all. And then I hear, the biggest thing that you'll hear, obviously, like with 7 strings and people, is they're like, "Oh, I can't even play 6. How am I supposed to play 7?" And it's
Right,
like, it's really not that much.
Well,
of
I
a
mean,
difference.
I think that's kind of it's kind of a cop out, I think, because if you think about it like this, you're never going to master a 6-string guitar.
Right. What is it going to matter?
And if you were able to, even if it's possible, it would take many lifetimes. So why wait?
Yeah.
You'll never play one then, because you're never going to
Exactly.
master a 6-string guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, in that case, most people need to go back to a 2-string guitar or even a 1-string.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's right, because I mean, music is music, whether it's on a 6-string, 5-string, or 7,
Right.
8, 9, 10. But
And-
it's everybody needs to at least maybe try it, experience it, just to hear. Because when I did that, I did like a Christmas tune where I had the low string as a low A, and I was using that for my bass tones. Like, just having that extra register made it sound so much cooler. I
Right.
guess. So,
And just because you're playing a guitar with more strings doesn't mean that you have to be more technical.
right.
I mean, the selling point that I always use to let guitar players know that might be hesitant is that, on a 6-string guitar, if you wanted to play a 3-octave G major scale, you'd have to start on the 3rd fret of the 6th string and go all the way to the 15th fret on the 1st string. Well, on a 7-string guitar, you can do it in one position and a half
Right.
step,
Mhm.
right? So there you go. Think lazy. Work smarter, not harder.
Right. Exactly. Just
Get a
go-
7-string guitar and play less. So there you go. That'll help you on your way to mastering guitar.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course, if you do have smaller hands, it helps you, because if you're going, way down here on the register on the 7th string, you can come up a little bit, and it's not so hard to play.
Yeah.
Because those frets are a little. I mean, it's just interesting that that's the number one thing you'll hear from people with 7-string issues is,
Right.
they don't want one, or they're like, I haven't even mastered the 7 or the
Yeah.
6th string, and it's like, well, dude, you're looking at it.
When my first 7-string signature model came out, all I used to hear was, "Man, if you made that in a 6-string, I'd buy it." You know what I mean? And I thought to myself, it's like, well, if I had $1 for every time somebody said they'd buy a 6-string version, I'd be a rich man.
If my aunt had a dick, she'd be my uncle, dude. Like,
There
that's
you
what I
go,
would say.
right?
But
Well, yeah.
well, see, and
hilarious.
somebody said that about the Ormsby guitar. They were like, well, yeah, I really love the design of that, but if it was in a 6-string with white pickups and a fixed bridge without the fan, I'd get it. And it's like, well, so you want a completely different guitar then?
Yeah.
Just say that you want a different
Right.
guitar.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even anywhere near the same instrument at that point. I mean, okay, if you want different pickups, okay, fine. But it's like, okay, you want it not a 7, you want it in 6 with a fixed bridge, different pickups, no fan frets, no
I
scallop
don't
fretboard.
want that. I don't want that fancy paint job either.
It's like,
Just give me
come
one
on.
solid color and a matte finish.
I mean, dude, and that's fine. I love that people have different opinions, but it's like, I don't know why you got to knock what somebody else made just to make it fit what you want. Why don't you just go make your own guitar? You go ahead.
For sure, man.
Anyway, I'm just bitching.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
it was really cool to see those guys, and like I said, they've commented and liked and stuff on some of my Facebook and Instagram stuff, but I've never actually chatted with them, so it's kind of cool to get to talk to them and actually kind of build that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I think it's important for you to know who those guys are as well as everybody else. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree. I'm gonna
They
start
had
sharing it a lot.
I mean, they were definitely an influence on my playing at the time. You know what I mean? Because they were already playing 7-string guitar. They were already doing the killer legato stuff. And I think what didn't get talked about as well as Scott. While most of those guys were doing all those crazy legato pentatonic stuff with legato, obviously, Scott was picking most of it. Alternating string skips. So that makes it that much harder, which is pretty cool. So check out Scott Stine and Brett Stine, the amazing Stine brothers.
Absolutely. And make sure you click the like on the video. Make sure you comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check them out on Instagram. We'll put their links, and because I think they're mostly active, it seems like, on Instagram.
Mhm.
Check out their stuff on there. Follow them, and just tell them that you heard about them from us if you haven't heard of them before.
Right, man. Right here on Guitar Autopsy.